Hello, everyone. Good morning. Morning, David. Just give it another minute or so while people are still joining. Morning, Ollie. Hi, Raf. Okay, it seems like numbers are starting to stabilize a little bit, so we'll make a start. So morning, everyone, and welcome to our public show and tell for ODP products. For those of you who haven't met before, my name is Celia, and I'm part of the digital planning team at MHCLG. So before we start, just the usual housekeeping. So the meeting is being recorded and will be made available on YouTube after the session. If you do not wish to be recorded, please feel free to switch your camera off. And I will just pop that in the chat as well. Okay, so this is our monthly show and tell where all the teams who are working on ODP products get the opportunity to share developments and updates and things that they've been working on. As always, there's opportunity for questions and feedback, so please feel free to raise your hand or pop a message in the chat. And yeah, so I think we've got updates today from PlanX. I'm not sure who I'm handed over to for PlanX. Is it you, David? You're nodding at me.
I believe it's Ollie that's going first.
No?
Take over screen sharing. Second.
Oh, I'm not sure if you've got sound, Ollie. I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're very, very faint, Ollie, sorry.
Is it just me?
Hold on. Sorry, give me 1 second.
That's a little better.
I'm just going to try to speak up a bit. For some reason, Teams isn't finding my headphone mic. Yeah, is this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully that's all right. Thank you.
Sounds fine.
Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Celia. So yeah, hi everyone. Good morning. My name is Ollie, and I'm a developer and analyst over at Open Systems Lab, working on PlanX. Today, I'm going to walk you through a new feature that we're working on, which is a new kind of permissions role for team admins, which does not exist just yet. So for context, for those who don't know, PlanX is a multi-tenanted environment with role-based access. This is largely managed for editors through different team spaces. This is largely kind of one team per local planning authority, not necessarily always the case. But yeah, that's typically how most editors engage with the platform. And yeah, PlanX is collaborative. So editors are typically team viewers for by default for most teams. So I can, as a member of Barnet, for example, I can view what Camden are building, maybe see what kind of services they're running, and kind of learn from how they're doing things, but I can only access and manage things in my own team space. So most users currently have a team editor role for at least one team. And currently this is the only role with like editor capabilities. So it's not necessarily the most flexible, doesn't allow for more kind of granular permissions management. But yeah, more and more we are encountering that different roles in the team require different levels of access. So the kind of cases that we've been working with so far are for managing other members on the team and also managing your PlanX subscription. So yeah, this is just a bit of context as to why we're working on this new feature. So currently, if I am a kind of editor in PlanX, I can see the teams that I am an actual like member or editor of at the top. So in this case, I'm an editor for Open Systems Lab and the testing teams, and other teams are view only, as I said before. So this kind of team viewer role would be applied if I were to try to see what Birmingham we're building and whatnot. And currently, as a team editor, I kind of have blanket access to team editor capabilities. So currently, that does include being able to manage other team members, as you can see in the screenshot. And you can maybe see on the left here the sort of like subscription page. And so these are some examples of some of the permissions that we want to restrict, because not every editor needs to have them. You probably don't want every single person on your team being able to remove permissions for other people, add other users to your team, etc. So what is forthcoming is another role that kind of sits higher than the team editor in the hierarchy. So on the left, you can see me viewing as a team admin. You can kind of see on the bottom left, yeah, that my role shows up. And what that means is that I have the ability to add a new member, as you can see with the sort of button under the team members table. And you can also see that I can edit and remove users. And then on the right, you can see that I'm viewing as a team editor, and that restricts this capability. And so I can no longer add new members or edit or remove existing ones. So currently team editors do have this capability, but yeah, as you'll see, that will no longer be the case with this new feature, and additional kind of new ability is to assign a role, as you saw in the modal here. So you can assign a team editor or a team admin and accordingly kind of promote or demote a user as well. And then, yeah, the kind of standard remove editor privileges persist also. And then in addition, we're going to restrict access to the subscription page for team admins only. So yeah, on this left, the left screenshot here, you can see that the access exists. And then on the right, when I'm viewing as a team editor, that access no longer exists. So a kind of high level summary of the different permissions are that your team admins will be able to view subscription while the team editor cannot. The team admin will be able to manage team members, as I showed before, while the team editor can only view team members for their team. But all of the other permissions that a team editor has, for instance, creating and editing and publishing flows within their team space, that will persist for team admins. Of course, we won't just be restricting the kind of sensitive information like the subscription page from the UI, but ensure it will check a user's permission level in the database. And so if you were to type in, for instance, your team space / subscription, will kind of gate the access to that page based on your role. Yeah, so that is a summary of the forthcoming team admin role. Yeah. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll pass over to Daph.
Thanks, Ollie. If you're okay to continue sharing your screen, I'll talk through the slides as they come across. Hi, everybody. I've probably met most of you at one point or another, or you've in person or on one of these presentations. I'm David, one of the developers here at Open Systems Lab alongside Ollie. And there's a couple of topics I'm going to be talking through this morning and demoing as well. And then, yeah, any questions we can have at the end, and any questions for Ollie's section as well, we can come back to. Please just put them in the chat, as Celia said. So the first thing I want to talk about is component selection within PlanX. Next slide, please. So just to set the scene, when I say component, what do I mean? What is a component within Planx? So these are what power the Planx graph. Essentially, you can imagine the service or the graph made up of a series of these components. They both shape the user experience as well as the control flow and data flow within a service. So these are basically the building blocks, the Lego blocks that make the Planx graph. What that means in kind of on the ground, as it were, one could be a text input. So a user will see a text input on a screen. Another could be a question. A user would see a question on the screen. There are other abstract ones which are not displayed to the users, such as set fee or set value, which again have no public interface, but they have a powerful role behind the scenes. By putting together these building blocks in certain ways, that's how we build services and flows within Planx. So this is the model I'm talking about here when we talk about components. There's quite a few ways of kind of grouping and describing these. We can group them kind of categorically. So there are a number of location-based components, such as map and label or draw boundary. There's a number of payment-related ones. We could also group them by their functionality, so user inputs. We could also maybe group them by that visibility, as I said, internal and public. It's never quite that simple, unfortunately. Some of the public-facing inputs I talked about there, like text input, map and label, and checkbox, seem quite self-explanatory, but they also have powerful features internally. For example, to put users down one path or another branch, we can also reuse some of those inputs. So yeah, it's never quite as simple as that, and some are hidden from the user. So basically we have this key feature of Planx and a number of grouping and describing these components, and we're trying to find a better way of explaining that to the user and highlighting this. Next slide, please. So some of the current pain points I've maybe touched upon there. I really want to stress that this is a real key feature of Planx. This is how all services are built. And generally, we're finding there's pretty low visibility and low discoverability on this key feature. Having, with the aim of trying to improve that, some of the outcomes would clearly be better services for users. If you know what components are available to you, it's more likely that you can build services which are effective, a better experience for users. For example, maybe using an address input instead of a series of text inputs, or a contact input when you need to find user information instead of a series of text inputs. And there's a whole bunch of patterns like that I could go into. On the whole as well, there's this kind of, I don't know how to say, creative tension between increasing the number of components and adding more functionality, but keeping coherence strong and not just adding more to a growing list. We really want to make sure when we're adding something, it's effective, it's clear, and it's unique enough to make it worthwhile for us to do that and add a level of noise in some ways to the user. So that's a tension we always have when adding new features. We are always trying to ask ourselves, should this be a new component? Is this an enhancement to an existing one? Can this be achieved by other means? So it's not quite as simple as just ever increasing that list and letting it grow boundlessly. That would not be a good user experience in many ways. We also on the roadmap have discussed new features which interact with this. One of those is patterns, which we'll talk about more in a future show and tell, and component previews as well. I'm not going to dive into those just yet, but maybe touch them in a moment. But we think some of those features are going to require us to redesign the current modal anyway. So this seems like a really good point to maybe abstract some of this out, solve some other problems along the way, and improve the user experience. So if we look at the next slide, we'll see what this currently looks like in Planx. And this hasn't changed in a very long time, I believe. So on the left is the modal. When you click on an empty space in the graph, this modal pops out. And almost as a secondary action, in fact, you have this selection in the top left with a very long list of components. They are grouped, but there's not much context here. And you kind of have to know what you're looking for and what you want to achieve. And as I said, it's rather a secondary action. So it's not as if you upfront choose and then you go to a modal. And I think that's been a friction point we've observed with editors in general. So this is the selection process we're looking to build on. And if you look at the next slide, there's a quick demo GIF here of what this new world looks like. So you click on an empty space here, and you'll get a popover within place, allowing you to scroll through the available list. We've also added tooltips for a little bit more context, as well as highlighting these icons, giving you a bit more real estate. Right at the top here is a search. So you can search by name or category to try and narrow down that list if you know exactly what you're aiming for and what you're picking. When you make a selection, it takes you back to that modal. And again, you still have that secondary action of changing if you'd like to change your mind. But we think that this flow is going to be a much more usable experience and really pick up that discoverability, which I think is really important. We want users and editors to be empowered to know what are the powers they can put into the graph, what are the features, what are the functionalities. And I think this will really highlight that. And yeah, we hope to see that this will encourage users to select a broader category or to explore a little more what's available to them. Next slide, please. So what are the next steps for this? This is currently on staging. We rolled out to production very shortly, possibly this week. We'll obviously put a post in Slack when that happens so we can start gathering more feedback. And this certainly isn't a finalized process, nothing ever really is. So any feedback we get on this, any suggestions or improvements, we're very keen to hear. Again, now is the space for it, but Slack more generally and Trello and by the other means are great as well. If anyone has comments, we would love to hear them. The next real step here is introducing what we call patterns. The name is slightly to TBD at the moment, but that's what we're currently calling it internally. And these are basically reusable groups of components which act together. So if a single component is maybe like an atom, a pattern may be a molecule. So a group of them structured in a certain coherent way that'll again help users build services in big blocks and chunks rather than brick by brick. And as I mentioned, another next step is a wider redesign of that modal component we showed a few screens ago. So improving the structure and the functionality of that. Some of the features that have come up as requests many times are a preview as you build out that form, see what it's going to look like immediately, adding history changes within a certain node. So there's a whole lot of things we'd love to do to improve that. And we think this is a kind of a facilitation step to get us closer to there. So that's it for component selection. If anyone has questions, as I said, please put them in the chat and we can kind of come back to them if that's okay. The next feature coming into PlanX is the dashboard. So next slide, please. Let's talk about the problem we're hoping to solve with this feature. So we believe PlanX is a powerful tool and it's got a number of features, but they are currently fragmented across a few pages. So if you want to see a summary of activity, there's no centralized hub to see all of that. You kind of need to know, if you log on a Monday morning, you may need to click on a few pages or a few tabs to get an overview of what's happening. And I'll demo this shortly just to show you what I'm talking about exactly here. And I think as our user base is growing and the range of user experiences from very experienced to very new onto the platform is growing as well, we really want to make sure that there's a coherent way of discovering these features and understanding them. There are many people on this call who've been here for a while, who've seen us add these features one by one. So it's maybe quite easy to understand if I want to view my subscriptions or my team management or my feedback, here's where I go to. But for a brand new user on day one, some of those may be hidden behind a menu, may not be as obvious as we would all like. So if I can get the next slide, please. This is what we're kind of going with now. It's a centralized dashboard. So basically this is going to be a single source of truth for an overview of analytics. We're not taking anything away. You're always going to be able to go and look at them in full detail, but we've picked out some of the core highlights. The aim here is to make this a lower friction process, as I said. So rather than going through a number of pages, you can see them in one place at a high level and then drill in and get more depth afterwards. We've also aimed to make this quite action orientated. So as I said, imagine if you're logging on a Monday morning, you want to see what do I need to do, what's happened. There are a few kind of call to actions here that will hopefully take you to have a look at your notifications, have a look at your feedback and see what's going on internally within your LPA. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Ollie. I think I'll just take over the screen briefly if everything goes to plan, and I'll try and run through this. That doesn't seem to be working. Shit, here we go. Just configuring my settings. Sorry, this is always the case. Anything coming through?
Yep.
Can you see it? Okay, I can't actually see what you're seeing now, so I'll have to go and trust. But can you see a PlanX page here with flows and a list of cards?
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Okay. If anything stops, interrupt me. Thanks, Ollie. I appreciate it. So over here is what happens now. When you log on to PlanX, this is the page you see. You're going to land and there's going to be a series of flows. And as I said, some of those pages we were talking about, like feedback or submissions, are within a submenu. We do have notifications here as well, and I highlighted that recently on a show and tell. But let's have a look at this dashboard page and how this is going to look. So what you would land on is an overview here of some of these pages. And again, to draw your attention to them, I'm not going to go into every single component here, but very briefly, I'll kind of run through them. Overall, we've highlighted key analytics from the last 30 days. And again, we're not hiding anything away. We're hopefully making it easier to find. If you want to view more depth and get the full breakdown, you can go and click on that and discover that in the same way you can now. We also have a list of flows recently edited with the link to get them. Notifications are highlighted. Feedback is here as well. So again, we could navigate through to these and get more feedback and understand that. Again, the aim of all of this is to make it more action orientated and make it going, I guess, from like a more passive usage to a more active usage. If I see there's feedback that's unread, I'm encouraged to click on it, discover it, work out what's changed, what can I do to improve my services. And yeah, we have an overview of activity as well, so you can understand how users are using your services. And we've got a level of personalization here as well. If you have any, I don't have any pinned flows for this team, but if I do add some, I could view them here. So maybe these are the services which I'm working on currently. These are the ones which are important to me. When I land on my dashboard, again, I can get easy access and shortcuts to them now to improve that workflow and to get me going on, essentially. That's a very brief demo. I think we'll leave it at that for now. I'll actually continue sharing and go back to the slides. Can you see my slides now?
Yes.
Perfect. So what are the next steps here? What are we going to do next? We're definitely going to continue to iterate on this design and gather feedback. This hasn't been released to users yet, but we definitely want to get that feedback. We want to understand, are the analytics we showed there the key ones? Are they meaningful enough? Is the time frame meaningful? Does it work? So we're hoping to get feedback on that. Similarly with the layout, is the hierarchy correct? Is the presentation correct? Is there more room for personalization and to make it unique to you within your team? The other real key thing we're looking at is what we're currently calling the explore page. So if we think about this dashboard as being an internal view, what's happening in my LPA, we really think a core part of PlanX, as Ollie mentioned, is that kind of multi-tenanted collaborative environment. So the explore page will be the partner to this page, which allows you to have an external view. What else is happening in PlanX? What are other LPAs doing? What templates are available? Links to tutorials and Knowledge Hub to increase your usage and increase your knowledge of services, and basically to get a similar overview, but outward facing. And again, we'll talk about that more in the future show and tell, but we really think that these two are going to be a kind of partners in kind of supercharging the usage of PlanX and allowing you to get a much better understanding of what's going on for my team and what's going on outside my team as well. Again, we'll go into that in a bit more depth, hopefully in a future show and tell in the not too distant future. And I think that is us for today from PlanX. If anyone has any questions, very happy to take them now, or I'll keep an eye on the chat and we'll get back to you as you come up with questions. Cool. I'll take silence as good. Celia, I'll stop sharing and I'll hand back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so I will just take this opportunity as a quick plug for the Extract drop-in, which is this afternoon. So LPAs that are using Extract, or maybe those that are interested and have questions, if you don't already have that in your calendar, you can email the digital planning team at communities.gov.uk, and the team will send you an invite over. Okay, so the next show and tell will be on the 15th of July. Massive thanks to Ollie and David for presenting today. We've got a couple of minutes. I don't know if anybody has any questions or any final thoughts that they want to share. No? Okay, thanks. Right, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
Bye.